Alrighty, here we go with the episode 800 Q&A. I'm doing it right on time. I've watched episode 800. I haven't started watching the other episodes yet. This is the first thing I'm doing, so hey, things are starting to come together, like as far as me being organized goes. Alright, first thing I'm doing, I did a post a little while back, looks like about a month ago. That says time for the episode 800 Q&A. Ask any questions about anything One Piece up to episode 800. Also, I have a question for you. Who is one character so far we've seen that you wish had joined the Straw Hats? Also, who is the one character that you wish had been evil and had to fight Luffy? Okay, so let me answer these questions first before I read anybody's replies. Because I made note of the replies when they were coming in. It's one reason why I like to do it a month at a time, because I make note of the replies and it quiets down and I have time to forget if I saw what anybody said. So it always kind of works out that way. It's pretty good. Who would I like to have seen join the Straw Hats the most? It seems like Jimby is going that way, so I'm going to disqualify him. Who long gone do I wish had joined the Straw Hats? At the time, Vivi, of course. I'm not entirely sure what she would have added to the crew, I have to be honest. Like, the crew has to be able to fight. Even Nami. See, back then, Nami wasn't really a fighter. Now she has fighting skills. So I don't know that we can have somebody who just, is hanging out and is just a professional victim, professional kidnap victim, professional, somebody who has to be protected. Now, I know Luffy thinks he has to protect everybody in the crew, but everybody can handle themselves at least to a certain extent. This would be somebody that, Vivi, just, I don't see her being able to fight on any kind of level, anywhere approaching what anybody else on the crew can do. So, I just don't think it works. Who else? Bartholomew, for me, was the perfect candidate. He has a power that is very useful. He's funny. And it's not like the author has a problem with one note, one joke characters. Like, everybody's pretty much a one joke character. Luffy's hungry. Chopper is young and naive, and he gets bashful when he gets complimented. Nami's greedy. Sanji, you get it, right? So, everybody has the one joke. And so you can dial it back. You can have him get used to him, but then still every now and then he thinks something they do is really cool, and then you can bring that out and it can be funny, right? So for me, it would be Bartholomew. He's one I definitely would have liked to have seen join the crew. He joined the extended crew. Like, he can be called upon and come in and help, and probably will at some point. But actual member of the Straw Hats on the Straw Hat ship. As far as who I'd like to see Luffy specifically fight, this is an odd one for me because it's Garp. I want to see Luffy fight Garp, and it's because he pissed me off so much. I will never forgive him, and I'll never forget this. Luffy had a chance to get to Garp, and Luffy had a chance to get to Ace, and Garp stopped him. If he'd gotten to him then and been able to pull him away then, everything would have happened differently. They would have gotten out faster. Lava Bitch would have never had a chance to do what he did. Everything would have been very different. Maybe Lava Bitch would have closed the distance and the same thing would have happened. I don't know. But to me, it's Garf's fault that Ace died. He didn't have to step in. The bare minimum required of him was not to help the pirates. Okay? Not to actively work against the Navy. To not actively work against the Navy and assist the pirates. Standing there, not preventing something, isn't the same as helping. You know what I'm saying? Like, he took action. He could have chosen inaction, and nobody would have noticed the difference. He could have been like, well, I was guarding the flank. There's a chance they were coming through here. There's excuses he could have made. He could have intentionally moved that direction to try to make sure nobody came from this one spot and left it open if Luffy got up there. So, he made a decision to actively work against Luffy. He could have chosen an inaction. Now, I know duty, honor, whatever. I get that. I understand that. I'm not saying he's evil. I'm saying I want Luffy to kick his ass. Stomp him out. Punish him. Because I wish I could. I can't fight, and he's a fictional character. So, I can't punish him. So, I want somebody to do it. That's my answer. God, that pissed me off so much, man. You just have no idea. Alright, let's get to your answers. Mr. 2 would be, this is from, I wonder if this is an AI. Is this a computer? AI VP5EA. Hmm. AI. I wonder if this is a computer. Anyway, computer says Mr. Two would be a great character for the crew in the comedy. I think almost all the supernovas could give good fights versus the Straw Hats. What the hell are the super moves? I think it's supernova. I think it's supposed to be supernova. Those are a rookie pirate who has managed to earn a bounty of a. This feels like something I shouldn't know yet, so that's probably not what it is. Super moves. I don't know. I feel like there's gonna be spoilers if I keep looking. I don't know what this means. I think almost all the super moves could give good fights in the Straw Hats versus the Straw Hats. I don't know what that means. So maybe I'm forgetting something. Somebody explain it rather than me try to look it up and then get spoiled. All right, Matthew Zeller. The second question is much harder, but I think I would have liked to have seen Luffy and Jimby go all out pre-time skip. Man, why would we want to fight Jimby, man? I don't know. I don't want to fight Jimby. I guess ability-wise it'd be interesting. I mean, Luffy's beat people of comparable size and skill set. But I don't know, man. I don't want to fight Jimmy. I really like that dude. We've seen them fight, but that's when Luffy is on the brink of death and he just lost his brother. So, yeah. Fair enough. Wrathful Viper. The zombie tree and zombie horse from Thriller Bark should have joined. That is very interesting, actually. Yeah. Having a zombie be part of the crew would have definitely been interesting. Yeah, I can roll with that. They would make good additions to the crew. Also, I think it'd be interesting if the Straw Hats faced other supernova. Like Kid. Okay, this is the second mention of supernova. It must have been a term that was used and I just don't remember it, okay. It must be the bad generation. What is the name for these rookies? All these rookies that came out? The wrong generation? Something like that. So that must be a fan nickname for that group because he mentions kids specifically, and or anyway. Let me start over. Also, I think it'd be interesting if the Straw Hats faced other supernova like Kid, or ended up enemies with Hancock. Preferably Hancock though, just to get an idea of how strong the Kuji really are in Hancock herself. It's obviously strong, but it's hard to really gauge the strength of hers. That is true. Like I think she probably relies a little too much on her ability to entrance men, right? She can weave this spell and she gets them, or she can just turn them to stone. But what if somebody has an ability to resist that? What does she have left? Well, we know she can kick. I think I have some vague memory of her attacking people with her hair. She can probably hit them a little bit. I mean, she has a skill set. I'd put her on par with like a Smoker and his minion, whatever the hell her name was. I mean, she is a warlord. But is she a warlord because she also has a strong group of Amazons underneath her, or is it just for her own personal abilities? If you had a female crew come at her, how good would she be? That's a really interesting question. So I'm kind of with you on this. It would be, and I like Hancock too. I like her a lot. Something about Jimby, it's like I don't even want to contemplate Jimby fighting Luffy because I'm just so into Jimby and with Hancock I like her as well, but I'm not as sickened by the idea of them fighting, if that makes any sense. Because don't forget, I ship Luffy and Hancock. I actually want those two to end up together. I'm sure they won't. He seems kind of asexual to me, but like I do ship it. But it would be interesting because you've always had like the enemies to lovers thing that happens a lot, right? So like you could have them fight, but then end up together. It's fine. That would definitely be interesting. Yeah, I think Hancock is a good, and it's an interesting point in that how strong. What would it look like? What would that fight look like? How would that be? So that is cool. Okay, continual rise. I would I would have liked Marguerite or Asia to have joined the crew back in the day. Yeah, I think we might still have the same problems that we have with Vivi, but Yeah, that's kind of, I think we're kind of on the same page with that. I don't really remember Marguerite too much. I could probably look that up without spoilers because that's an old character, right? She's one of the ones, the Kuji tribe, right? One of the ones that's underneath Hancock. She's the one with the snake. She can fight. She has personality. Yeah, I can see her join the crew. I'm totally on board with that. Asia, probably not, but like I can totally see Marguerite. Okay, yeah, I'm on board. I obviously like the way the story plays out, but anyways, I would have liked to have seen a serious Luffy versus Jinbe or Hancock fight or even Ace. Damn, man. What is with these people? They trying to get they're trying to get all the people we like to fight, man. There are people that we don't like or people we ran into randomly, you know what I'm saying? So why does it always have to be the people we really, really like? Why can't there just be some random ass like trying to think of a good example. Somebody we ran into but we don't love. I don't know, man. Like I don't know why it has to always be Jinbe. Like y'all some haters. Hancock's itching. I don't want to see him fight Ace either. But they're both so stubborn they would end up one of them dead, so that would not be good. Okay, Matthew Zeller again. This is a very cliche answer, but I really wanted Vivi to join. But story-wise, I'm glad she didn't because her country needed her. And having a princess as an ally would be very useful for us. Yeah, well, here's the thing. There's this thing that happens in season 7 of Buffy. I won't spoil it. I know it's a 25-year-old show, but it's also a show a lot of people are rediscovering and going back to and stuff. So I won't spoil it. But there's a thing that happens in season 7 where you have two characters, okay? One of them betrays and murders the other one. And then the person who lives, the betrayer, joins the Scooby Gang, the good guys, and kind of redeems himself through the course of the rest of the season. The problem is, he was the leader, the lesser popular of the two characters. He was not nearly as popular as the one who was murdered, which is probably why they did it. And he dragged down the season for me. I don't like him. I don't like the scenes he's in. He's annoying. It would have been much better if he had died and the other one had lived. Well, when you make this point online, there was a specific rule that in order for like this thing to happen, one of them had to kill the other and spill the blood, and then the thing would happen. Okay, so like I said, I'm trying to be vague in details on purpose. And so everybody's all like, well, the other person, the one we like, the one who was murdered, would have never killed somebody. That's why we like him in the first place. He would have never killed somebody. So it's impossible for him to have been the one who survived and stay the rest of the season and the other one to be the one who dies, right? Because the one we like would have never killed somebody. That's all fine and good. You know what the problem with that is? The writers control the rules. The writers control whether you have to kill somebody for this thing to happen and then stay the rest of the season. The writers control how if one of these two characters has to die for the thing to happen and the other one can live for the rest of the season, the writers control how that happens. The writers could have had the one we don't like try to kill the one we do like and then have an accident in the process of trying to do that and inadvertently kills himself. Like he slips, falls off something, hits his head, his blood comes out, whatever, right? The writers control the rules. You can't fall back on a writer-written rule to say, well, we have to live with this character situation. We get a character, we don't get a character, because that's the way it is, right? That's fine in real life. Two people aren't meant to be together because of whatever adversity there is. That's real life. There's no writer controlling that. If the writers want these two people to get together, they remove the adversity. And then they're together. If they don't want them together, they include the adversity to keep them apart. Same thing here. Give her a sister. If you want her to join the crew, if the writer wants her to join the crew, give her a sister who can take over the country. Right? Like, I don't think it hurts. You're not inhibiting anything by having her join the crew as a writer. You can't, in other words, you can't be like, well, the country needed her. Well, if the writer wanted it to happen, the country wouldn't need her. Somebody else would step up. You see what I'm saying? Right? So, like, what you're saying makes sense in universe, in the story. But the writer's outside of the story. The writer makes the rules. And I think one reason I'm belaboring this is I think people just kind of forget this, They just kind of like fall into the trap that the rules are set in stone, especially with the show like Buffy. It's been there. We rewatched it for 25 years. You hear these rules being listed for 25 years. You forget there was a time when they were not set in concrete. The rules could have been changed in the writing process. This, by the way, was not a thing that had been established years before, where by the time we got to season 7, they were kind of stuck with the rule. Like, vampires can't go out in sunlight. This was something they invented for this storyline right before he died. They could have made it whatever they wanted to. Same thing here. If he wanted to join the crew, then somebody else could have stepped up and, helped the country. So, he didn't want her to. Now, I'm on record earlier in this video saying I didn't want her to join the crew, so I'm okay with it. This is more of an overall general pet peeve I see fans talking about in subreddits and stuff. Just got to keep in mind, you can't hide behind rules that a writer established, probably for the purpose of what we're actually the very thing we're talking about. That's my rant. I'll get off my soapbox now. Okay, so we are somebody's actually asking me a question. Yeah, I'd forgotten, but many people were answering my question. That's why I do this, by the way, because a lot of people can't think of questions, and it's fine. You don't have to. I was always a person good at it. Like whenever you go to like Dragon Con or something, and you have a panel, I would always have a couple of good questions in my mind. I don't always get a chance to ask them, but I've always been good at the questions. But here's a question for me: if you were in One Piece, if you were in the One Piece world, going out to find the One Piece and could pick any 3 characters from the series to join your crew, who would you choose? Okay. Now, you're looking for maximum flexibility, maximum utility. You also have to factor in, personality considerations. Who's it fun to be with? Who can you trust the most? Who's the most loyal? Jinbe's off the top. He's loyal. He's smart. He's level-headed. He can fight. And he's really good in the realm of water. And what are we going to spend most of our time on? Water. Jinbe is the perfect crewmate. Now, they did say, I had to double check, they did say any 3 characters, they didn't just say Straw Hats, because he's not currently a Straw Hat. Jinbe's number 1. He's my number 1 draft pick. Okay. I think we should disqualify Luffy because he is a leader, and we're talking about me being the leader, and he wouldn't be subjugated to me. So, it's, if I'm the leader, I'm going to pick people who will follow me, and Luffy's not one of those. Otherwise, he'd be my number 1 draft pick. Okay, so we got Jinbe. Frankie's number 2. He's going to make you a great ship, maximum flexibility. He has all kinds of things. He can do all kinds of things. He has a great personality. He's uplifting. He's less childish than some of the others. So is Jinbe. I tend to gravitate to people that are, a little bit less childish. And he's just rock solid. He's brave. He gets shit done. Another perfect crewmate. And man, now you only have 1 draft pick left. There's so many people. I would have to say Robin. Again, mature, maximum flexibility. There's so many different things she can do with her fruit power. You notice we only got 1 person with fruit powers. So that the other 2, they're not hit by the limitations. Frankie has a technological fruit power, you could say, because he's just so versatile. There's so many things he can do. Jinbe doesn't have a fruit power. He wouldn't be in the water, but he's very strong, right? So you got Robin. She can do things from a distance. She can do all kinds. She can fly. She can grab something from over there and bring it back over here. You create ladders. There's so many different things she can do. Plus, you can't find the One Piece without her. I think she has to be on everybody's crew. Anybody who's making this list, she has to be on her crew. I wouldn't mind hearing your 3, by the way. But I'm going to be judging you if she's not on your crew. Because how the hell are you going to find the One Piece? Like, she's reading the stones, man. Polyglyphs or whatever they're called. Phonoglyphs. So, you got to have her, man. Doesn't hurt that she's super hot. All right, well, what devil fruit do you think is the most useless that you've seen so far? The jacket fruit is really bad. That's really bad. Somebody puts themselves inside you, I guess is probably the best way to put that. It's not a great way to put it, but, they put themselves inside you. And then you get their powers, I think. I don't remember. That is a stupid-ass power. I think being a giraffe is a stupid-ass power. Because you can be strong in so many other ways, and you don't have to be a stupid, long-neck-ass giraffe. So, those are probably 2 of the ones I've made fun of the most. I'm sure there's others. What do you feel about the One Piece remake with the directors and animators of Attack on Titan seasons 1 through 3 being the main contributors to it, and will you watch it? I won't watch it because this is a definitive version. I've only seen one episode of the live action. It was fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I do keep wanting to go back and watch it, but like with all the spare time I have. But I just this is in my veins. If I was starting now and they had the whole thing out, I would probably watch that because the pacing's better. I have pacing issues with this series, but this series is in my veins, man. It's in my blood. It's a part of me. I've watched 800 freaking episodes of this shit. So it would be interesting to take one story arc from it, the new one, and one story arc from this series, and watch them side by side. You know, like back to back. I guess I have to watch it back to back. Something, it couldn't be like the 110 episode story arc. It's just too goddamn long. But something, a sizable story arc. Watch it and then watch the new one and compare and contrast. I would love to do that. I probably will do that. But for me, like I'm an old school loyal type person. For me, card laid, card played. You throw your lot in with somebody, and even if they're the losing side, you threw your lot in with them. You're with them. I'm not the person that switches teams. We all go down together. We got in this together. We go down together. I'm not going to switch and jump and change a bunch of teams, all this other crap. That's pretty much it. And I would never have time. Maybe if I had unlimited time, I would check it out. But like I said, I do want to check out one story arc though. But it's nothing against it. I think it's good. I think it'll help more people become fans. I'm sure the pacing is better. Probably is a better viewing experience. But I threw my lot in with this team, and I'm going to ride with them till the end. That's just how I feel. Do you think oh, by the way, that was Kazimik? Kezimik, I think. Yeah, so this one is Telemachok. Telemachok? No, that's not it. That can't be it. It's Talhamakkk. I don't know. Do you think the power scaling and consistency are getting out of hand as anime go on? Well, I mean, obviously it depends on the anime, I think you just need to plan it. You need to plan ahead, man. You need to think about it. The problem with live action TV shows, I don't know about anime. The problem with live action TV shows, they think about the season they have in front of them, especially if they don't know if they're going to be canceled or not. And that's all they think about. They plan that season. They don't plan the whole series. Eric Kripke famously planned 5 seasons of Supernatural, and he executed that plan to perfection. It is the best 5-season series I've ever seen. Phenomenal, truly phenomenal. It's, to that end, like if we just look at that, planned ahead of time, executed the plan, is even better than Breaking Bad. Because Breaking Bad, they had some things that they changed along the way, right? Breaking Bad's a better series. And Supernatural went on for another 10 seasons. But just that 10-year plan, the 5-year plan was incredible. So, I'll give you the best example I've thought of. The Dexter TV series. The problem is, and again, I'll try to be a little vague here for spoilers, but I understand they had the book. They were following the first book. They didn't follow any of the other books, but for season 1, they followed the first novel. And the first novel was really good. Apparently the novel series dropped way off after that. But the first novel was excellent, apparently. So, in the first novel, you have Dexter's strongest, cleverest, most informed villain. The person who would be the hardest for Dexter to defeat. His kryptonite. I won't go into details, but it was in the first novel. This was his kryptonite. And they burned it off in season 1. And then they killed him in season 1. Like I said, it would be mild spoilers, I guess. But they killed him in season 1 when he didn't get killed in the book. So that, even if you're saying you're following the book, it doesn't make any sense why you killed him off. And again, it's like there was a logic to why they killed him off in the series, but that logic didn't exist in the book, so they changed it for that purpose so they could kill him off. So again, writer imposed rules that could have easily been changed because you control the rules if you're the writer. It's that simple. So, you take your best villain and you burn him off in season 1. Season 2 comes around. you take your best scenario, Dexter can be caught. They're actively looking for Dexter for the first time in his life. That's the best scenario you could have with this show. The concept of the show, that's the best scenario. Typically, they do that in the last season of a series like this. They did it in season 2. And then they also took a side plot that was the best side plot you could have had, which is one of his coworkers specifically suspects him and is on his ass on top of the other thing we're talking about. So you had the best plot and the best side plot were burned off in season 2. They had already done it. You can't do it again. So in season 1, you take the best villain. In season 2, you take the best plots. Season 3, you had a really good actor who put in a really good performance, and so it didn't feel like a drop-off. And you even had a second villain, which was interesting, and it was like a mystery villain, so that kind of worked. That worked pretty good. It didn't feel like a drop-off. Season 4, you have an absolutely incredible actor. The execution wasn't great. The beginning of season 4 is really good, and the end of season 4 is really good. The middle section is bad. You talk about pacing. It's really bad. But the acting, the gravitas of the actor, and then some other factors made season 4 really good. Then there's a pretty steady drop-off after season 4. Personally, season 5 is my favorite season. It's the first time you have multiple serial killers as the big bad. Every big bad before this had been one person. Now you have multiple killers are the big bad. That's way more interesting. And that helps you pace out your season. You divide the seasons into each one of these people you have to kill, and you have to kill a lot of them. So for me, season 5 is the best. Then it really drops off from there. Okay. The problem is you shot your wad in the first 2 seasons. You blew it. What you should have done, season 1 should have been just us discovering who Dexter is, what he does, and just the everyday drama of his life. A bunch of like one-shot episodes, Monster of the Week type stuff. We're in his life, we're enjoying the characters, there's great characterization, there's drama happening, there was already stuff happening with his girlfriend. You could have made that pretty much the cohesive thread throughout the season. Have some minor serial killer he's looking for most of the season or something, and the cops are looking for nothing big. Nothing dramatic. It's the first season. It's a fresh concept. The concept alone would have carried 1 season. Instead, they burned off their best villain, and they also were having a concept. So I personally would have made the concept the story for season 1. And in season 2, go ahead and follow the plot of the novel, I guess, and use your villain. I wouldn't have killed him off, but then you're already 2 seasons in, and now you burned off your best villain. But that's better than burning it off in season 1. Okay, season 3 would have been probably what we got, right? Because you got a really good villain, you got a really good actor, you have a secondary villain, he was a good actor, and he was a mystery villain. I would have kept that exactly as it was. Season 4 is where you burn off your best plot. We're 4 seasons in, people are getting a little tired of the series. That's when you really want to drive it home. That's when you really want to grip everybody and be like, oh my God, this series is incredible. You have a concept, a premise, a plot line that will bring whoever was like starting to shed, the people that were kind of getting bored in season 3, they would be back because it's a fantastic plot line. And then you have the secondary plot that's also fantastic. So I would have done the season 1 storyline that happened in real life, I would have done it in 2, and the season 2 storyline that happened in real life, I would have done it in 4. So now you've got 4 seasons. And then you can still get some of these concepts we were talking about where it's like, you have the great actor who is in our version of 4. You could have put that in season 5, and then you do the what I was talking about with the gang of villains. Do it season 6. So you're already into season 6, and you have gotten great ideas all 6 seasons. That's how you pace momentum. That's how you escalate. Buffy did it better than anybody. She fights a vampire in season 1. She fights 2 vampires, including someone she loves, in season 2. In season 3, she fights the mayor, city hall, who wants to be a demon. Season 4, she fights the government. Season 5, she fights a god. Then they realize there's only one place to go after that. So season 6 was kind of like a bonus season. Like I've heard speculation. Joss Whedon had 6 seasons planned, and he was unexpectedly hit with an extra one. So season 6 was just kind of like whatever. And then season 7 was, the devil, essentially. The only way you can go from God is the devil, right? That's how you escalate. You don't put the devil in season 1 of a show like Buffy. You don't have her fight a god in season 1. Where do you go from there? That's the problem Dexter had. So, how does all that relate to all this? Okay, well, it's about power scaling and consistency. What you do is you figure out, here are all the power levels before you write your first episode or your first issue of the manga. Here are all the power levels. This right here at the end, this is as good as it gets. This is as strong as it gets. And then of course you have to know how long your series is going to be. That was the problem with Supernatural. They just kept getting renewed, So then you just kind of like make sure you start at 0 and you end at 100 if we're talking about power scaling. Never show us a 75 before you show us a 70. Never show us a 65 before you show us a 60. And I think this series has had a little bit of problems with that, where they brought in some really strong people. Like we had, Crocodile was the kind of person who probably shouldn't have fought before the time skip, because you wouldn't be able to grab onto him, right? Like we found a loophole with the moisture. So that was a very clever way to get around it, actually. So I wouldn't criticize that. I think it was actually, since you had a loophole, it worked, right? But you have to do this in such a way where by the time things get ridiculous, you're so invested in the series and its characters, you don't notice or you don't care. That's the key. Everything else I've said kind of can go by the wayside. This is the key right here. Don't pull out the ridiculous dumb shit until the audience is so invested they don't care. That's why Lost didn't introduce the shit that they introduced until season 5, right? If they had introduced the season 5 shit in season 2, they would have lost everybody. Because they did in season 5, we were invested, we were completely on board, we're going with it. Okay, we're fine. We're in it. You know what I'm saying? So, that's the key. I guess I'm not sure exactly what the question is. Is the question, is anime getting ridiculous? If you have people eating the sun and shitting out a laser beam that can destroy the dragon, that's a ridiculous amount of power. Like, Goku's probably overpowered. It sounds like he is. One time I did a poll, Goku versus a bunch of other people, like Luffy and Naruto and some people like that. And everybody said Goku would have soloed all the other people in the poll by himself. Well, that's too goddamn powerful, man. So, if that's the question, or some of these characters are just too powerful, they're unrelatable, and you can't write a story around them, I agree. Fortunately, I don't think we've really had that problem for the most part. The thing is, Luffy's, some of his most ridiculous abilities, like fourth gear that we've been seeing, reduces his lifespan, right? I think that's true for some of these other people that get really seriously overpowered. So that is a detriment. That is something that's a cost you have to pay. Right? So it's okay at that point. But does it matter if we never see a tangible result of that? Does it matter that Luffy's only going to live to be 30 if we only see him, the last time we see him he's 23? At some point, that's not good enough. So I wonder about that. And that's the only question we can answer when we get to the end of it, right? But overall, we look at the power scaling and Attack on Titan, speaking of them. Start off very small, the world gets bigger, the enemies get bigger. I mean, most shows handle that pretty well. I think most shows handle the power scaling and consistency. What you don't want to do is you never want to have a situation like Heroes. I guess I'm going to talk about every single TV show ever made. But you don't want to have a situation in Heroes where you have two characters that are basically Goku and Superman and Omni-Man and Homelander all put together. And they're getting punched out by security guards. You can't have that. You can't have these people that are so goddamn powerful they should never have any adversity whatsoever, because you break your story. And the writers just they put themselves in that position. By season 2, Peter and Silas are so powerful, neither one of them should ever lose. And when they fight each other, the world should probably end. They didn't plan that out. They did not pace that very well at all. They were very consistent. There's so many times when Peter had all these different powers, it was like, well, why didn't you do this, and this and solve the problem? Like, for instance, he's trying to get through a door. We've already established he has the ability to phase through things. Phase through the effing door, man. If you're talking about consistency, that's inconsistent. That's terrible. Now, a couple times I've had a problem with the consistency when it comes to Robin. There's things she should have been able to do. I pointed it out when it happens, and but none of it has ever felt like it. I never felt this way with One Piece the way I have with Heroes. Heroes pissed me off. It was so bad. The writers were bad. The writers were bad. They should feel bad. You collect. You should be wearing a ski mask when you collect your paycheck if you were a Heroes writer. You suck. It was just terrible, man. This writing has never approached anything nearly that bad. A few inconsistencies here and there, and maybe I'm just missing a little piece of lore that would have explained it anyway, right? Not so with Heroes. That was just bad. Okay, he says his answer is he'd like to see Shanks versus Luffy before the anime ends. Also, even though I don't want Sabo to join the crew, I want him to at least have an arc with the Straw Hats. Me too. I agree with that. Like Ace kind of did. Ace and Alabaster. Ace didn't really have that though, man. Thinking back, 4 or 5 episodes maybe. Then of course, he got a filler arc, which was good. It helped pad out the runtime with Ace. I don't feel like that. I remember. I don't feel like he was with us very long. He was way too short. Would like to have seen him be a lot longer. That way we can learn about Dragon as well. I agree 100% with that. Although I don't give a shit about Shanks versus Luffy, like I've said before, I have to be emotionally invested in a character for me to care about them fighting. I didn't care about him fighting Big Mom. We've had some time with her. I am now emotionally invested. I want to see that happen. See that bitch get knocked the hell out, right? So, but that didn't happen before we spent time with her. We've had very little time. We've had more time with the lion face dude Perkins. Think about this. I want you to think about this. I'm right. We've had more screen time with Perkins up to this point than we have had with Shanks in 800 episodes. We've had maybe, being very generous, 25 minutes screen time total the entire series with Shanks. Maybe. I could be a little off, but like I'm telling you, man, we have so little screen time with him. I don't give a shit, man. Bring him on the stage, front and center. Let us spend some time with him. Until then, I don't care. Like this whole cat and mouse bait and switch shit and keep bringing his name up, that does nothing for me, man. I need to spend time with this dude. So, F Shanks. Until you bring him in front of the stage and he starts dancing for us, F him. He's dead to me. Because I don't give a shit. Hell, Dragon might have had more screen time. We just got a few scenes with him with Sabo recently. Some of his flashbacks. And then we had a couple more scenes where I think his place being attacked. He could be dead for all we know. But, it's entirely possible. It's closer. Their amount of screen time is definitely closer. But it's entirely possible Dragon has had more screen time than Shanks. You need to fix that, author. Quit screwing around. Alright. Here we go. This is Hunter Stone. Since we're in a very Sanji-specific storyline right now, if you could give an entire arc storyline to a Straw Hat, what storyline would you give them? Like Sanji as big and important to them as possible. I would like to see... Now, this has been told to me, and I also believe this 100% myself, that the characters are going to stay who they are no matter what. Now, I would love to see story growth. But Usopp's always going to be a coward. Nami's always going to be greedy. Sanji's always going to be a slut. Luffy's always going to be hungry. Chopper's always going to be bashful. Frankie's always going to be a pervert, etc. Speaking of which, what is Robin's flaw? I don't think she has a flaw, does she? Does she have something that's like, wow, this is annoying? Everybody else does. I don't think she has anything. That's interesting. Is she the creator's pet? That's what they call it, right? The creator's pet is the one that doesn't have any flaws. That being the case, despite that, I would like to see Nami get a dedicated storyline that the end of which results in her not being so greedy anymore. I know she kind of got that with the time skip. I mean, she learned some lessons, and she's done some humanitarian shit before. She spent money when it was like to help the Straw Hats and all that stuff. But I want to see her get a storyline where it's just the materialistic shit, the greediness is just thrown back in her face, like a storyline with a bunch of people who are just way more greedy than she is, like Ferengi or something like that. This world's version of the Ferengi. And she's so disgusted by it. And she realizes it's so empty and there's no happiness there. That she realizes, okay, I want to be a better person. That aside, I wouldn't mind seeing somebody meet a biological parent or, somebody, well, I mean, we're seeing Sanji meet a biological parent, but somebody meet a biological parent in which it can be a different flavor. This story is all about found family. So that's why I think all of them are pretty much orphans, or they don't have their parents, or we rarely see the parents, and when we do see the parents are assholes. There's no affection between Luffy and Dragon. So I think that's the point of the story, and that's why they don't do any parental storylines. Like they're doing this one, and this is the first parent I think we've met on screen that has interacted with their child. I believe. Am I crazy? Has any of the other Straw Hats interacted with their parent on screen in present day? I don't think so. This could be the first, and we're 400 episodes in. But I want to see that, but like, it's the whole thing of you don't really know how far you've come in life until you surpass your parents. It's not this thing where you got to a man has to kill his father to be a man. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is this realization I had when I turned 40. Mom died when she was 40. So I realized I'm the same age she was when she died. I will now forever be older than she ever got. I will have experienced more life than she ever did. And it was a benchmark for me. It was a milestone because when I was a kid, I remember thinking she had all the answers. She was so smart. She was old. At the time, she would have been like 30. I thought she was old and she was smart and she had all this experience and she knew all these things. I turned to 30, I could barely dress myself. I didn't know shit. But I thought she did when she was 30. So I came to this realization. I surpassed her. But I didn't surpass her in any kind of like, egomaniacal way or any kind of like, whoa, ha, ha, I'm better than my mom. I just surpassed her, right? And it meant something to me. It was like, wow. It really redefined humanity for me in a way because it was like, again, as a kid, you think these adults that they just seem like they know everything and they have all the answers, and then you get to be them and you realize they don't. That's just a redefinition of life at that point. And I got that when I surpassed my mom's age. I'll never surpass Dad's age because he was old as hell when he died. There's no way I'm living to be that long. But it just would be interesting. It would be interesting to see. It can show you how far you've come. What kind of person are you? What kind of person are they, right? There's so many great storylines in Once Upon a Time, since I'm bringing up every series ever, where characters run into their parents after a long period of time and they realize they're a better person than their parents are, or they're a lesser person, Supernatural that way. The two characters in Supernatural realize they are not as strong as their father and they never will be. Characters in Once Upon a Time realize in a lot of cases they're stronger than their parents. They're more courageous. They're better people. So, I just think that's interesting. So that would be for any of the Straw Hats, that'd be an interesting story. Maybe not Chopper, we don't need to see the reindeer he came from. But somebody told me one time, look, what we know about all the parents. I don't remember what it was, but I don't think we know anything about Zoro's parents, biological parents. I don't think we know about Usopp's biological parents. Again, it may have been stated at some point, and somebody definitely told me in comments, they listed every character, and they said something. I can see the post in my mind. I just can't remember what it said. It was a while ago. It was like 300 or 400 episodes ago, probably. Maybe one of my other Q&As when I was talking about it. But I wouldn't mind seeing that, right? So that's probably would be the storyline on one. So it's similar to Sanji's, but Sanji's, it's not really... The parental familial relationships, the parent is not interesting to me. It's the siblings. I've talked about this. His relationship with his siblings is fascinating because that's what I always had a problem with. I had the friction, the combativeness, the antagonism with my siblings, not with my parents. My parents are fine. My mom was doing the best she could, man. She was really struggling. She brought these abusive men into the household. She didn't do it on purpose. She was doing the best she could. I have no problem. I've buried that beef, right? It's the siblings that suck. So that's why I'm interested in exploring with Sanji. His shit with his dad, I don't care, man. Like, that doesn't do anything for him. His dad's a dick, and he knows it would be different if he was still trying to reconnect with his dad. That would be interesting. But he knows his dad exactly for what he is. His dad's a dick. So, go to hell. That's pretty much where he's at. So there's nothing you can do with that. The siblings are more interesting to me. Even though he knows the siblings for what they are, etc. I do wonder about that youngest sibling. Did he get abused after Sanji left? Could that be a turn that we see in this story arc? I think so. I think it's entirely possible. It's entirely possible one of those four siblings is a psycho, two of them are followers, and then you have Sanji. The followers don't always have to follow. Maybe they'll grow up and maybe they'll stop following. We can only hope. That would be interesting. He wants Vivi and Karoo to a state. I've already talked about that. They are great. I mean, they're fine. Obviously, I make fun of the duck, but they're fine. I'm just kidding. We haven't seen Luffy fight a giant yet, so he thinks that would be fun to see Luffy fight Dory and Bragi on Little Garden. That is true. But we know he can get big. We know he can stretch, so we know he can fight a giant. Stretch his arm out, hit that ass, make his hand big, be on equal terms. He can handle a giant pretty easily. So it would be fun to watch, though. Like, any of you who like King Kong versus Godzilla, right? That's basically what we'll be getting, right? Alrighty, continual rise. Now you're getting closer and closer to catching up and entering the final saga. What key events do you think will unfold, and what will be one of the very first big mysteries to be revealed and solved? I think I think I've been spoiled on which the first mystery is going to be solved. A couple years ago, I saw trending on Twitter the Will of D or something about D, and and then you can see what it's associated with. They talked about One Piece and all that stuff. I think it's been revealed what the hell D means, specifically, definitively. So I can't pretend I don't know that. I don't know for sure, right? Because obviously I did not look at any of that. I was already reacting to whenever it was I noticed this. But can't say for sure, but I'm pretty positive it has been definitively revealed what the hell all that means. So that will be the big mystery that gets revealed. Unfortunately, I already know that. The way I see it, there are like three mysteries that are probably all related to each other. There is what happened in the Void Century. There is what's this shit about the Will of D, and then there is where does the power of the Devil Fruits come from? What is it specifically, right? Then you can also say what is the One Piece, but that's going to be the last mystery revealed, I believe. And you already know my theory on that. I've already talked about that. But, okay, so the Will of D has already been revealed. What do I think will be the next one revealed? I think the next mystery revealed will probably be what happened in Void Century. And I think what happened in Void Century will reveal what's up with the Devil Fruits, because I think those two things are closely related to each other. And it's possible that the One Piece, if I'm right, that the One Piece is knowledge, the One Piece will tell us these things. So you'll find out what the One Piece is, knowledge, use the knowledge, find out about the Void Century, and find out about the Devil Fruits at the same time. So they could all three, come to pass very quickly, all together. But if we're going to pick one of them, I think the Void Century will be the first thing we find out. Then we'll find out about the Devil Fruits. Then we'll find out about the One Piece. If we don't find out all three at once, it'll be probably in that order. I think the Will of D has already been found out. He had to start revealing something somewhere at some point, right? My only hope is I can get to the leading edge. Well, I call it the leading edge. Whatever the current episode is right now, if I can get to the leading edge of that before it gets revealed in the anime, any of these mysteries, and I won't see the trending topics and be spoiled. Because I don't want to be seeing some shit like One Piece is a library trending. That would really piss me off. And I go on Twitter a lot. Although if they do remove the block and mute button, then I probably won't be using Twitter anymore because screw that. So maybe it'll only be a problem until December, which I think is when they're supposed to do that. All right, what do you want to see in future in terms of mysteries, fights, backstories? Well, I want the mysteries resolved. As far as new mysteries, I don't know how you could come up with something like that. I do think it's entirely possible there are some mysteries that won't get resolved. Like, why are there so many different species of human beings on this planet? We have small people. We have big people. We have people with extra limbs and extra arms, and we have people with extra elbows and extra knees. We have fish people. How is this possible? It could be all related to the Void Century. And it could be related. It could be like an arc spaceship of all these different species crash on a planet, because I don't see how this evolves this way. We had 5 or 6 different species of humans here on Earth at one point. One of them won out, right? Like, I don't know that 2 different species of humans could have survived on the same planet, especially with us being as assholes as we are. We wouldn't tolerate somebody that different, right? Or we would have enslaved them probably. So I guess they could still theoretically be around. But I don't know how that many different species evolved on one planet. So I don't think that's a mystery that's ever going to get solved. I think it's a world building thing. He probably knows what the answer is, but he's never going to tell us because he won't have time. Like, it's going to be hard to wrap any of this shit up. He won't have time for that. Fights, like I said, it's just, I want to see him fight Kato because Kato's very interesting. I'm kind of like, we hasn't got much screen time either. But when I heard that Daffy was scared of Kato, I suddenly became very interested in Kato. So sometimes that's all it takes. Daffy was terrified. And then we get to see him a little bit and we see he's suicidal. And he just wants to fight for the love of the game. Kind of like Luffy. So I wouldn't mind seeing that, right? Definitely. You're going to think I'm a filthy hypocrite, and I am. I just realized somebody else I wouldn't mind seeing join the crew. Can't believe I'm saying this. I think would be a hilarious addition to the crew. It would just never happen, though. Like, how would that work, right? And yes, I'm a filthy hypocrite. I agree. Backstories. I think we're good on that. We know everybody's backstory. I wouldn't mind, again, just finding out about the parents and, what that was like. Was there ever a 4-year-old Zoro sleeping on the couch? His mom comes over and texts him, puts a blanket around him, strokes his hair. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing my parents this week. I don't know. I just think that, we never really got that. We never got those sense that, so much of our lives are defined by our childhoods. And we get little glimpses of their childhoods. But we don't really see how that definition came about. I don't know. I think really, we're talking about the future of the story. We're at episode 800. They are currently at 1120 or some shit like this. We're talking about 320 episodes. Not very many. They don't have time for any of this shit anymore. I think we're starting to wrap it up. I don't think we're going to be introducing many more main characters who are going to have an impact on the end of the series. I think the warlords and the current, whatever the current batch of warlords is, and the 4 emperors are it. You've got the 5 elders. You've got the 4 emperors. You've got the 7 warlords. You have the navy with the admirals and the fleet admiral. And that's it. I don't think we're getting anybody else who's introduced now. We've never heard of them before. When they get introduced now, they're going to have an impact on the level of those people I just mentioned. I think we're done with the introductions, and we're going to start killing people off or getting rid of them. Depowering them. Big Mom, I think, is first. Get her out of here. She loses her power base somehow. And then it's time for Kato. Get him out of here. Then we've just got Blackbeard and Shanks. And I think Kato and Big Mom are going to be gone by the time I reach episode 1100. That's why I predict that. They better start moving faster pace than they are right now, but I think that's entirely possible. So that's my best guess on that. All right, this next section is a pet peeve post. There was going to be a drawing, but we need at least 5 people within 2 days, and we eventually did get 5 people. I was kind of surprised. I didn't realize we achieved that, but it wasn't within the first 2 days. So we'll spin this around, and maybe when I get more subscribers, we can have more people respond. It's more fun when there's more people. When there's just 5 people, 1 out of 5 chance, you don't really feel lucky when you win something. So more people. That's why I haven't really done a live stream yet. I want to do some live streams. I just don't know it's going to be fun if there's 3 people watching, right? I don't know what number of subscribers I need to have a high number of turnout. There's also been some technical issues with live streams. Making it work with my external software rather than the YouTube software. So I want to do it. I really do. But we'll figure it out. Anyway, I asked for the biggest pet peeves. And I was talking about My Hero Academia, Naruto, and One Piece. We're going to specifically talk about One Piece here, but I might address the others depending on how good the comments are. First off, we've got SWAT Gaming 44. Now that's pretty good. SWAT, of course, with a 4. I like a name I can effing pronounce. Just saying. Definitely the perv thing from both Naruto and One Piece. Agreed. God, strong agree. Sanji is usually pretty easy to handle, but when he came back from the time skip and he couldn't be normal, I kind of got tired of that quick. Me too. Like, you've seen my reactions. Jesus, man. It's so stupid. You know? I mean, it's basically comedy for 13, 14-year-olds. You know, it'd be fine if it was, like, the other anime I've watched, it's such a small dose. Like, you would get people get nosebleeds or whatever. Maybe hard eyes. Looney Tunes used to do the heart coming out of the chest. I mean, that's all fine, right? Like, you know. This, though, I mean, it's so... he runs every joke in the ground. Now, we can't just say it's Sanji. Brooke, he runs into the ground. He was running Bartholomew into the ground. I mean, he just... I don't think he knows when something stops being funny. He would be a great Family Guy writer that way, right? You know? So, I think that's the biggest problem here. I think he just runs every joke into the ground. I know Oda wants there to be a party at the end of every arc where the Straw Hats celebrate, but sometimes people need to die that survived needlessly. Like, how did not a single person die in Erinus's death game? Who the hell is Erinus? Is that electricity bitch? Yeah, I guess it is. Okay. I can never remember his name. Sometimes it feels like the stakes aren't there. Of course, I'm not worried about a crew member just kicking it in the bucket, but it makes it hard to get emotional about any scenes with sacrifice when I know they'll be walking around next week. Yeah, and like Hunterstone gives me some shit about this. This is pretty much what I'm talking about here. It's not that I want people to die. It's that I want to feel like people can die. And I don't feel that with this show. You know, and you need to take secondary characters that we like and sometimes kill them off so that it feels like anybody can die. Game of Thrones, though, the whole stereotype was that anybody can die. But anybody didn't die in Game of Thrones. Not until the final couple episodes. You know, we had some characters who died towards the end of season 3. You know, a couple major characters. But were they really major characters? Were they getting a lot of focus? They really weren't. One of them maybe was. But, you know, that person, I don't want to get into too much detail for spoilers, but, like, that person was definitely in a situation where you're not going to be heartbroken that they're dead. Let me just put it that way. And then the other person also died in that same event. Maybe a little more heartbroken, but it was more the promise of the future rather than what we had seen on screen so far with this character, right? Like, it's just, they were, you know, it wasn't Jon Snow in season 3, right? Like, Jon Snow had so much screen time as opposed to what, you know, who did die, right? So it's so funny to me that, like, there was only one major character that was a really shocking death, and that was in the first season. You know, where like you felt like this was going to be a main character for the entire series, and then they died. So it created this mystique that anybody could die in Game of Thrones, but anybody couldn't die in Game of Thrones. Most people didn't die in Game of Thrones. It was just, they were killing secondary characters, and they killed that one major character, and then they had a couple secondary, really pretty large secondary characters who died in season 3. And then they had a large villain that died at the beginning of season 4. So once you get to this first few episodes into season 4, it really did feel like people were getting mowed down everywhere you looked, right? But it was an illusion. That wasn't really what was happening. It wasn't what was going to happen in the future. It's all a magic trick. You were fooled. Anybody couldn't die. But it was a magic trick, right? So that's what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about the magic trick. I'm talking about the appearance that anybody could die so that you're fully invested with these fights that take a long time sometimes. That really run you into the ground. Like some of these, like with the Doffy arc, there was a couple moments where I was like, can we just get to it and can we get it over with? Like, you know, and I wouldn't have been that way if I'd felt like there was a serious chance that somebody could go, man. You know, did I really believe Law was dead? I didn't, but if they had killed off a couple other people, like Law, a few hundred episodes back, then it would be more believable to me that they would kill Law. That's what I'm talking about. Like, I get so much pushback on this whole thing, and then people always see this person died. I'm really just talking about the magic trick is what I'm talking about. You know, you gotta convince the audience that you're willing to kill major characters off even if you're not. And it's such a delicate thing. It's really hard to describe. It's really hard to pull off. You know it when you see it. And this show has never come close to emulating that. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. At the end of the day, though, that's not what the world that Odo is building. And it doesn't have to be like real life. Agreed. I agree. I suppose it's nice for someone to survive every now and then. Not you, Pell. People are so bitter about Pell. Well, that's ultimately where I come down on this. At the end of the day, it's the story the author wants to tell. It's not the story we want to tell. You can never criticize something for what they could have done, unless what they did do kind of breaks the story in one way or another. Like, you know, go back to Game of Thrones. People bitch about the time travel, or not time travel, the transportation. Like, people just time warping from here to here. There. And I don't think all the complaints are valid. I think their complaints are overblown. I think sometimes people are just whiny bitches, right? You know, and do we really want to sit there and watch 6 straight episodes of somebody in a ship? Or can we skip ahead and assume, like the show assumes we're old enough to realize and to assume, that if you're sailing from this place to this place, probably a month passed, but we don't need to see it happen to believe a month passed. We can just assume a month passed. And so I think a lot of times fans just won't give that grace. You know, like, they want to see the month pass. Like House of Dragon. Apparently it takes like a day and a half to sail from King's Landing to Dragonstone or something like that. And so people are bitching about how that happened in just 2 scenes. I'm like, okay, so I would have made this show better. I said this in the subreddit. I was like, that. So it made the show better if we saw her sitting in a ship for 3 straight episodes. That would have made the show better. Man, that would have dragged like a mofo. Of course, they downvoted me because they didn't like that I was rebutting them with a good point, you know? But sometimes these kinds of things can break the story. There's another instance of fast travel, we'll call it fast travel, where it did break the story. You know, towards the end of season 7, it broke the story. Like, it made no effing sense, and you just get hung up on it, and it affected the plot in a major way. Unlike the previous example I gave, did it really matter how long it took her to get there? No, it didn't. You know, so you're just bitching the bitch. But in this other case, it did break the story. It did matter how long it took, and it broke the story. So if you're breaking the story, we can't give the author the grace. Well, this is a story they want to tell. But as long as they're not breaking the story, and he never has, I've seen. Let him tell the story he wants to tell. Like, maybe we wanted a story with aliens and time travel. Well, that's not the story he wants to tell. So saying this show sucks because it doesn't have aliens and time travel is not fair. It's unfair criticism. So I agree. He wants to tell the story he wants to tell. And he doesn't want people dying in the story. So that's fine. And people do die, like I've said before. Like, I'm not talking about how many people live and die. I'm talking about crafting the illusion that anytime somebody gets in a fight, they could die. That's what I'm talking about. And this show has not crafted that illusion, but the author would rather have a feel-good story where nobody really, I know Ace died, but again, that was baked in. For the most part, it's a feel-good story, and for the most part, Luffy is funny and optimistic, and we don't want to see him crying every week like he was with Ace. That was brutal. It was brutal to watch him cry and how devastated he was. I don't want to experience that again. I don't, right? So, and neither does the author. So he wants a feel-good story. For most of the time, we feel good and we feel happy when we leave the story every episode. So that's what he wants. And that's what he's doing. So it's fine. He's telling the story he wants to tell. I still think it's a valid criticism, and I will wage that criticism against the story, but there's not any heat to it. I'm not pissed off about it. I'm just making a note, you know, out loud. All right, this is Kez again. With One Piece, I kind of don't like the thing of Luffy eating meat that instantly gains his strength back after a fight. As much as I love Odo, this thing Luffy has kind of feels like a cop-out to getting back into the battle. Agreed. Yeah, I agree on that. For instance, when he got defeated by Crocodile and needed Robin to give him some meat to recover, then in the next few episodes he's back to normal after getting stabbed through his effing chest. Emphasis mine. It's funny sometimes, but sometimes I'm just like, does he really get back up like that? This show has a weird relationship with food, okay? You cannot possibly eat the volume that Luffy eats in the amount of time he eats and process that amount of food. His organs would shut down and be shitting stools the size of the Empire State Building. Now, we don't want to see that. For the love of God, I don't want to see that. But he would be staying in the bathroom. You know, so there's like some magical component where like his devil fruit instantly turns the meat into energy of some sort. That's the only way we can fan wank this, right? Fruit power, people powered up by the devil fruits assimilate food into their bodies in a different way than every other human being on the planet. They turn it into energy. Healing energy, power up energy, fighting energy, whatever. That's the only thing we can do with this, right? Like, because there's a human being cannot process food that fast. He's stuffing enough food to feed an army into his gullet. Now, I know he's flexible and he can stretch, but there is no way. Your organs would shut down, like I said, man. Like, your bowels would be in gridlock. You would literally be shitting bricks. Just, it doesn't work, right? So, like I said, the show has a weird relationship with food. But they really only do that with the fruit power users I've seen. I don't see Sanji or Zoro eating and getting energy and healing real fast. So we can chalk it up to an unspoken side effect of the fruit powers. Maybe, not even really unspoken, just kind of like a acknowledge, like, that seems to be what's happening there, right? That's what I'm thinking. That it's just the fruit takes the energy from the food and just, it maybe evaporates the mass and just turns into pure energy almost immediately. When taken in volume, we could say. Because I assume at some point he would need some kind of food going through his system, make sure so his body would continue functioning. But when he takes it in large volume, the fruit must kick in and turn a lot of it into energy. So, and plus also when his body's been traumatized in some way. Ariel said this applies to all the shows, but too much recap. Agreed. They be recapping, man, recapping way too damn much. I only hold that against the new shows. The old shows didn't know what kind of world we were going to be living in and the streaming model and the binge model and all that. They didn't know. So it makes sense. It made sense at the time. They did the best they could with what they knew at the time. So I think it's fine. But the newer shows, still too much recap. Even this show, we're getting to a point, I don't know when episode 801 was produced, but at that point, they should have known about the binge model. They should have known about DVDs. They should have known about streaming, and they should be cutting back on the recap. We'll see if they ever do. But, at this point, there's no more excuses. Okay, this is Hunter Stone. A lot of my issues with One Piece are issues that a lot of people have with One Piece. I wish all the women didn't look the same. Agreed. Wish the pacing was better. Agreed. I want them to stop using the same song over and over and over again and create new music. Agreed. Too much recap. Agreed. But pet peeves are supposed to be more personal. I got two after thinking about it for a bit. Zoro is very cold and serious post-time skip. I mean, he hasn't really said much post-time skip, but I agree. Like, he's cold and serious. And was he a silly dude before the time skip? We still see him bickering with Sanji, and he's also made some catty comments about Sanji when he's not around. He seems the same to me. Maybe this is something you pick up on rewatch. Maybe, like, if you binge the series, like, 3 or 4 times, and you really get familiar with both sides of the time skip, maybe it stands out more. I haven't noticed it, really. He doesn't seem very different to me. I mean, he's a little bit more serious, and, of course, he looks cooler with the scar. I haven't noticed it, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist, right? Like, so I think this is probably something rewatch pulls out of the show. I don't think the first time through, at least for me, I've noticed this. So, and this last comment, I really agree. Secondly, I want more time on the ship with crew bonding time. We barely get it pre-time skip, and we get less post-time skip. Agree. Like, they start sailing away from an island at the end of one episode. Next episode, they're at the another island. We don't see them on the ship for an entire episode anymore, unless there's a plot reason for that to happen. Like, we may have seen it a little bit, like when they were going to Big Mom's Island, because it was a longer journey, and the journey was plot relevant. Like, they had to turn at the correct times, they had to avoid shit at the correct times. There was tension there. They ran into the brother's ship. There was tension there. But we don't see it where they're just having life and day of on the ship between missions. They don't even do one shots other than filler, right? They don't do like this is a one episode story between arcs. Really, that not really. Like sometimes it'll be kind of like one episode stories at the end of an arc, especially the end of the last arc, because there was so much to wrap up. Here's what happened to these people. Here's what happened to these people. Here's how the world reacted to all the news. We had that, but we don't have a day in the life of on the ship. This is absolutely true. Okay, a little bit more and we'll be ready to go. This is already probably a long video, but 200 stone comments I think are great. One, talking about Big Mom. Stop judging a book by her candy loving. That's fantastic. And then also, the 100 Stone brought up the parallel in the first half of the series. Robin's leaving the Straw Hats and is refusing any help from them. Second half of the series, Sanji's leaving the Straw Hats and is refusing any help from them. That's a great parallel. The author really know what he's doing. He didn't have to do the parallel thing at all, right? Like, so it's just cool that he did it. And I wonder, did he ever announce it, or did people just notice it and then he admitted it? Because it's really cool, man. But yeah, this is a great 800. I'm going to start on the next 100, and 900 will hopefully be a great set of stories, and we can do another Q&A there.